Hello, everybody. So this summer, I started off like I start off pretty much every summer with my daughter, and that was, a structured. We're going to practice math every day, and she responded with, "No, we're not. I hate math. I don't like math," which put me into a tizzy because that breaks my heart. But it didn't start off well. Is the end of that story, and usually any sort of math work ends in tears. We received a letter at the beginning of the summer from her teacher saying everyone has to practice their math facts using this app that she's been using for a few years and having no success with. And that was probably the most devastating news she's ever heard, because this was her new teacher telling her that she had to do this. We'll talk more about that app later. But she just thought, oh, great, a whole nother summer of math torture. And that's, as someone who loves math and wants to share that with her daughter, honest to goodness, just breaks my heart. So I thought, okay, there has to be a better way. So aside from that, I was taking a master's course with the understanding that I would improve my classroom learning, my high school classroom. And as I was reading through this book, which is Mathematical Mindsets by Dr. Joe Bowler, I realized almost everything I was learning was so wonderfully applicable to my 9-year-old and my 6-year-old at home. And I thought, well, I'm going to keep using this for my classroom, but in the immediate, like what's happening right now in my present tense, I am going to use these skills with my children at home, because I am sick of having fights and cries and tears about math at home. It's not where I want to be with my family. So one of the first things we learned in our textbook was to change the way that we have conversations about math. In particular, how we have conversations about, when you get something right and wrong, and how we approach those things. So a quote from I believe it's Dr. Carol Dweck, I think she's a doctor, sorry, was in the textbook, and this was just awesome to me. So I shared it with my kids right away in June, and it said, every time a student makes a mistake in math, they grow a synapse. So I sat my children down, I said, look what I just learned, Mommy just learned this, that every time we make a mistake, your brain grows. And there's further research noted in the textbook about, it doesn't even matter if you know you made a mistake. Even if you make the mistake and you don't acknowledge it, your brain will still grow. So we talked about that for the first few days of the summer, and that was really exciting to all of us, because now, as we were practicing our math, the pressure was off, and, oh, you made a mistake. That's wonderful. Your brain just had a chance to grow. And that was such a refreshing way for them to think about it and be braver. We always want these brave students who are willing to try things, and that's not the kind of kid I have, so we had to kind of phrase it that way. So I gave Natalie a little survey at the beginning of the summer, and she answered it, I think a little bit in ways where she thought Mommy might be happy. But the last two answers are the ones that I thought were most valuable to me as her mom and as her math tutor for the summer. It says, number 5, it's good when a person makes a mistake in math. And originally in the summer before we chatted, she said no. It's absolutely terrible when you make a mistake in math, because, apparently that's the message I was sending to her, was you make a mistake and it's a bad thing. And then the final question, this really surprised me. If you get everything right, that you should try something harder. And she said yes, which surprised the heck out of me, because this is a kid who, would go into screaming fits if I asked her to do flashcards, for no reason. So, I thought, okay, well, maybe just what I'm practicing with her, it's not constructive. These are really lame activities I'm doing, so what's going on? So as I was reading through the textbook, they came up with awesome activities, which I'll share in a different video. But the very first step for our family was just to change our language and change our conversations about math and about practice and how you get, when you get things right and wrong and what that means. So making a mistake, now we respond with things like, wonderful, your brain had a chance to grow. Or if you notice a mistake, rather than saying, oh, you better look at number 2, I think you got it wrong, going, so happy we get a chance to look at number 2 again, and now our brain's going to grow. And I cannot tell you the difference in attitude, the shift in attitude my daughter had when that's the way I responded to it. And I feel like such a dum-dum, because, I've taught for 14 years, and that's the way I talk to my children in my classroom, not necessarily the way I talk to my own child. And, shame on me for that, but I thought, well, I can't be the only one out there who just has no more patience by the time they get home and starts responding curtly, and I needed to stop that. And this one's a hard sell for me because the literature does state that, when your child keeps getting everything right, rather than praising, oh my gosh, you're so smart, you got everything right, you're supposed to say something like, I'm sorry, I didn't give you a chance for your brain to grow. Let's do something a little more up to your speed. And I think what I'll take from that is maybe that's true if we were just practicing facts. And oh man, I didn't give you a hard enough puzzle to solve. We'll talk more about puzzles later, but, maybe we should try something harder next time so your brain can grow. But, if they brought home something from school that they worked on and they got everything right or got a good grade on it, I don't think you need to, throw it away and say, oh, your brain didn't grow. I think the way I'll respond to it is something along the lines of, oh my gosh, I'm so happy all your hard work paid off. You must have worked really hard on this to get such a great score, a great mark. So praising their effort and not necessarily the end result of, you're smart and you got it right. And you should be praising, you worked really hard and you did well. That's awesome. So, celebrating mistakes at home, whether it's homework or practice or just life in general. You think as an adult, how many mistakes do you make in a day? And the answer is a lot. And we have the maturity to kind of laugh at our mistakes and go, oh, that was really weird. And we all could acknowledge on some level that you always learn from mistakes. We already knew this. But that's a really hard thing for a child to understand is, if you think about your experience in the math classroom, especially when you're younger, if you were to take a test and not get everything right or do a worksheet and get some things wrong, usually what your teacher or your parent makes you do is, go back to these questions, erase all of them, do them again, and then maybe I'll give you more practice because clearly you need more practice. So everything that we ask the child to do on that level feels like punishment to them. They don't have the maturity to understand that, it's for their better good. It's just not something a child can put together. So simply changing the language in our communication, I think, would make immense efforts towards having a mathematical mindset in a young child and eventually a teenager, which I'll see in school, and then eventually an adult who will then continue on this cycle of mathematical mindset, hopefully to their children one day. All right, so we have some upcoming videos where we're going to talk specifically about things that I've done during the summer, and Natalie's going to help me record some of those videos, I hope, and demonstrate some of the activities we've done. And I'm not saying it's all roses. I'm not saying I've, created a mathematical, scientist over here, and my daughter, she still fights me. We're still in the middle of July now, or beginning of July, I guess. We're not where we want to be yet. But even in just these few short weeks of practicing and changing our language and practicing with some activities that mean more to her, I've seen tremendous growth already. So it's looking good. See you soon.